In this video, I'm going to continue my series called Undervalued, where I talk about another book. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, I'm continuing my series called Undervalued, where I talk about a book that is just that. Undervalued. And the book I have in this video here today is one that I think is super interesting because I've had my eye on this one for quite some time, and it kind of blows me away how cheap this book is considering the sort of property or brand that is attached to. So I'm going to kind of get into it with you guys here today, look over some things with you, and share with you guys my feelings about why I think that this book in particular is undervalued. Now, that's not to say that I think that everyone is wrong and the market is wrong. I mean, the market is the market. This is just my opinion and just a book that I think is, interesting with regards to, the comic book market. But before I get into the video, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, help support the channel, do one of those things, and I would appreciate it. All right, that said, let us get into the video here today. And what book am I talking about for Undervalued? Well, this one I'm going to talk about Annihilation Conquest number 6, first appearance of the new Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, this team is made up of Star-Lord, Gamora, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, Drax, and also Adam Warlock and Quasar. And why do I think that this particular book is so undervalued? Well, for starters, Guardians of the Galaxy, as we all know, is one of the biggest, sensations that kind of popped up in the MCU over this last decade or so. I mean, before the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, not a very well-known brand, but after we got the movie, Guardians of the Galaxy is one of those teams that have become like one of the all-time household names within Marvel comic books. And also superheroes in general. I mean, I feel like the brand of Guardians of the Galaxy is right up there, like alongside the Spider-Mans and the Thors and the Incredible Hulks and so on. And this particular book here, written by Abnett and Lanning back in 2008, is the first appearance of that new team, the Guardians of the Galaxy, the one that we saw represented in the James Gunn film. Now, of course, there is the first appearance of the Guardians of the Galaxy team that occurred in 1968 in Marvel Superheroes number 18, which is this book right here. I'll pull it up for you guys. Now, this team here was made up of Martinez, Charlie 27, Vance Astro, and Yondu. This was the original Guardians of the Galaxy team. Now, not to knock them or anything like that, but this is also a book that I could presumably make a video about being undervalued. But I think with regards to this one, the Guardians of the Galaxy, this particular book here, this was never really one that was that popular. I mean, I'm sure there are, those original Guardians of the Galaxy fans out there. I'm sure there are people that love these characters and this team. But, in the grand scope of things, if we're taking kind of a macro step back, I don't feel like the Guardians of the Galaxy team has ever been that popular as a brand until we got this new rendition here in, 2014 with the James Gunn film. This, of course, was written by Abnett and Lanning in 2008. Annihilation being one of the great crossover storylines in Marvel comic books. A lot of people talk about Annihilation, and hopefully this is a storyline that we can see represented in the MCU at some point in the future. That'd be really awesome to see this. Maybe if they get Adam Warlock and Nova on the table, we can eventually get this storyline because it is a really great read. But this book right here, of course, was the first time that we introduced this new Guardians of the Galaxy team, and that would be the one that was be represented in the James Gunn universe and people would fall in love with. And one of the reasons why I think that this book is so undervalued is we got to talk about the success of the film and what it meant to pop culture and how, the brand was, dominated at the time in which it was released in Marvel Phase 2. I mean, this movie alone, in some ways, in my opinion, kind of saved Marvel Phase 2 because there was a lot of movies in there that weren't that popular. I mean, Age of Ultron, even though it was a great film, people I kind of think felt like it's the weakest of the Avengers films. Thor Dark World, of course, was in there. Captain America Winter Soldier was great, but not every movie in Phase 2 was as consistent as it was in Phase 1 and Phase 3. But this one right here, Guardians of the Galaxy, I think that this was like kind of the shining jewel that kind of came out of the phase. This was the one that universally was loved. And there's one kind of graphic that I want to show you guys here, which is like, sort of the crux of why I believe that this is undervalued. Now, there's another YouTuber here that is called Data is Beautiful. And what they do is they do these really satisfying infographics where you can watch, certain stats fly across the screen to music. And what this does here is this is a particular video that shows the highest grossing Marvel and DC movies of all time. And this is just kind of a running total that you can see here. And I took a pause right here around the February 2015 mark. This was, of course, after Guardians of the Galaxy was released. And one thing that I want to show you guys is what do you notice here when you see all of the logos in this particular image? You see the likes of Avengers, Spider-Man, Batman, you see Iron Man up there, you see X-Men, you see Captain America. And to me, the one logo that sticks out is Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, that's what's so impressive to me about what that movie did. When we're looking at all of the brands of superheroes, all of the most successful grossing movies of all time, we can see that in the top 10, Guardians of the Galaxy is in there. Now, if I skip ahead to later on, it will eventually get unseated. But if I skip on later on, and we see Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we can see that it's still pushing its way onto the list there. And again, look at the company that it's with: Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, Iron Man, the Avengers. I mean, these are like, the top tier superhero brands of all time. I mean, and Guardians of the Galaxy as a film franchise is right there with them. And that to me is what's so impressive about this. And as we pull it back to, Annihilation Conquest number 6, this is the team. This is the version of the team that is represented in that film and that people have fallen in love with. And, pulling up the GPA analysis, I kind of wanted to show you guys some of the sales, because this is what I think is really interesting about why I feel like this book is undervalued. So in this video, I'm just going to pay attention to the 9.8s here. So if we can see around right now, if I look at the 9.8, last sold copy of this went for $235. So $235 for a 2008 book. But pay attention to the graph here. This is what I think is super interesting. So here's the graph. This is back in 2014. So 2014 would be around the time that the original Guardians of the Galaxy franchise would have come out. And then I believe it's around 2017 or so, 2016 maybe, when Guardians of the Galaxy 2 came out. And look at the overall graph. This doesn't seem like a book that has gained much value over its lifespan. I mean, certainly we have a big sale around here right when the movie comes out, but look at the giant dip right here, then a little bit up. We see some more ups, dips, ups. And now we're in this crazy comic book climate here in 2001. And, the top end of these 2001 sales is basically around where it was in 2014. So this is a book that hasn't really grown in the same way that other comic books have grown in this recent, surge of the comic book and MCU history. And that to me is really interesting, because when we compare it to like the other logos that you saw in that graphic, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, Captain America, Iron Man, like all of those respective properties and books have blown up. And when we compare it to Guardians of the Galaxy, a movie franchise that is effectively just as successful, this is a book that has not seen that same sort of ride. And just to hammer the point home, I think that this is super interesting too. Here you see in 2014, the highest sale in that year, this would have been when the movie came out, was $282. And if we look here to 2021, the high sale of 2021, you can see right there, high, $270. So still, the highest sale of this particular book to this date still is back in 2014 when the original movie came out. So you mean to say that even like this is a book that hasn't even grown in value over these last years? Not even inflation has raised the high value of this book. Now, consistently, this book is being sold at a more consistent high level, hitting those $200 ranges consistently. Whereas in 2014, you could see that there was a high of 282, but a low of 71. So not quite as consistent. But that still kind of blows my mind that this particular book has not actually eclipsed a new high, even with the knowledge that, we're getting a Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie, and even in this crazy 2021 comic book market. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, hey, one of the reasons this book isn't desirable is because it's the new version of the team, not the original version of the team, like Marvel Superheroes 18. But one thing that I kind of wanted to point out is I don't really think that matters that much, because there are examples of other comic books that when we see new versions of that character, they have been successful. And I only need to point to one book that's going on right now, of course, Dark Reign, Young Avengers #1. This is the quote-unquote new version of the Enchantress that we're seeing represented on the screen, or Sylvie Lustin, whatever you want to call her, Lady Loki. We're seeing her on the screen, and this is a book that right now is going around that $500 range. If I pull up the GPA analysis, you can see their sales right here in the 300 12 months ago, and then 535 here in the last 90 days. So this is a book that is absolutely blown up just because we've seen her in the Loki show, and she's the new version of, the Enchantress character. So I don't really understand why we can't sort of see that same kind of rise with Annihilation Conquest, first appearance of the new Guardians of the Galaxy team. Well, that is all I have for this video. That's just another book that I personally feel like is undervalued. Annihilation Conquest #6, first appearance of the new Guardians of the Galaxy team. I just feel like the Guardians of the Galaxy as a brand, as a franchise, has really, really paved the way for itself and really made itself one of the main players, one of the main teams, superhero groups, whatever you want to call them, in the pop culture space. And for that reason, I feel like this book in particular is extremely undervalued, especially when I compare it to the likes of the other movie franchises and what brands are attached to those, and what the values of those books are compared to this one right here. Granted, this is a 2008 book. I'm not saying that this is ever going to eclipse a Spider-Man comic book or whatever, but this is just one that I think is a great modern book to have because the Guardians of the Galaxy team is such a popular brand. Now, again, just a caveat, it's not up to me to decide what the values of the books are. The market is the market, but this is just a video series where I wanted to talk about a book that I think is undervalued. Anyways, that is all I have for this video. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next one.